What's going on, and welcome into Pels and Whistles, episode number 18, right here on the Believe Network. Of course, Pels and Whistles is presented by Bet Online. I'm Daniel Salerson alongside Rel Myers. Hope everyone had a fantastic holiday season as now we gear up for 2023 as the Pelicans look to end the calendar year on a high note. And they certainly did last night, defeating the Pacers shorthanded 113-93. First off, Rel, how the heck was your Christmas? Were you able to enjoy some time with your wife?
I was. We spent some time with the families on both sides. I got to watch a little bit of basketball on Christmas Day. They tried to subject me to a little bit of football, but I was like, no, there's 5 basketball games on. I need more NBA. So it was a good day.
Yeah, I was a little bummed that the NFL just trying to take over Christmas Day. This is a basketball holiday. It's not meant for football. I know there's so many more people that like football more than
Yeah.
basketball, but for us basketball fans, I'm getting pretty perturbed when everyone's talking about Rams and Broncos instead of Bucks and Celtics or Lakers,
Yeah.
Mavericks, whatever. I was a little frustrated by how much NFL there was on Christmas Day.
They're moving in on our turf. I didn't appreciate it, but that's fine. I got to catch a couple of good games, especially that Denver Phoenix game. That was a nice little end to that. So yeah, it was a fun day.
I'd like to thank the Denver Nuggets for their service that night as the Pelicans did get some help. They've gotten a little bit of help even on from the Golden State Warriors against the Memphis Grizzlies. And you know
Yeah.
what's funny is the conversation between those two teams has been rivalry, and I know that kind of seems familiar for us with the
Hmm.
Pelicans and Suns. Are the Grizzlies and Warriors starting to form kind of a hatred like Pelicans and Suns are?
Yeah, I think the Grizzlies and Warriors thing goes back just a little bit further than ours does with the Suns. But there's just so much trash talk between them two, as well as Memphis and Minnesota as well. So at a certain point last season, I was like, okay, I'm kind of ready for these series to be over between these two teams because all this is unnecessary.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the Pelicans are now second in the Western Conference after their big win over the Pacers last night. Actually, before I get into that, I saw on Twitter, well, that you gave your wife a nice pair of kicks, and I was wondering if mine are in the mail. Did they get lost, or are we just waiting maybe for next year to exchange gifts? What's going on?
Mostly waiting for you to get settled into your new place. I didn't want them to get delivered to the old place, so
Yeah.
just playing it safe. That's all.
Okay, yeah. For those watching on YouTube, I hope you enjoy my background here as I'm trying to get settled and figure out where the desk should be here in the new office, but that's neither here or there. Let's talk about the way the Pelicans played last night over the Pacers, winning by 20. And look, we kept seeing the injury updates
Mm,
for the Pelicans. We already knew about Brandon Ingram, Herb Jones, but then everyone's like, "Oh, Zion's out of concussion or not concussion, but COVID protocols." You're like,
mhm.
"Great." And then up, he's going to be out, kind of getting back in the swing of things. And Trey Murphy, he's going to be out. And you're like, "What in the heck is going on?" Larry Nance being out. But despite
Mhm.
all of that, it looked like the Pelicans did not miss a beat. And I think that's kind of been the theme of this year, Rel, is no matter who is out, you can't count these Pelicans out of any game.
Yeah, I was pretty nervous hearing that Herb and Dyson were going to be missing, and then
And
Larry was, of
Dyson, yeah.
course, still questionable, and it was a game time decision, and we've seen how that goes. So I wasn't really expecting him to play, but when they said he was available, I was like, okay, Larry's coming to the rescue, right? But I mean, Indiana, they're a 500 team, but they've been playing good basketball as of late, and especially Tyrese Halliburton. So with us not having Herb and Dyson specifically, I'm like, I don't know, this guy might go for like 50 on us. And so I can't lie, I was not expecting to win that game, but I had said that my approach was going to be um, I'll expect the worst, but I will gladly accept the best. And so, yeah, 20-point win. I can't complain about it. Najee had a career high, 22 points. And he also had 6 rebounds and 4 assists. So that was awesome. He had a really, really good game.
The
The
slicing
night.
through the Pacers defense. That wasn't a knife last night; it was a machete for him. I felt like the way
Yeah.
he was able to play out there. I mean that's the kind of thing that makes you so excited about this Pelicans roster because you have a guy like Najee who's been pretty consistent this year as far as coming off the bench, has been putting up some pretty good numbers, but such a team player, loves playing for the guys around him, and he got the opportunity to start and took full advantage. And just what he showed last night shows that if you do need Najee in a pinch or any of these guys coming off the bench, that you're not as worried as maybe in previous seasons when you had all these guys out. in a game like this, and you're thinking, oh boy, is it going to be a 20-point loss or a 30-point loss, not a 20-point win against a
Right.
team like you mentioned that was over 500?
Yeah. So I was very glad to be able to pull that off. And that was the third straight for us, having beat OKC in overtime and beating San Antonio. So I feel like we played San Antonio a little bit closer than I would have liked. And Sohan, he led the team with 23 points, and he's out there shooting free throws with one hand. He actually went
Mm,
7 for 10 from the line that
yeah.
night. So yeah, we're we had the 7 straight wins and the 4 straight losses, but we seem to be bouncing back nicely. So hopefully we can carry some momentum into that Minnesota game.
Yeah, I think that's been the key for the Pelicans is that they broke that losing streak and ended up starting a new winning streak, which is a good sign for New Orleans as well. Are we going to end the Miles Turner talk after last night's game, or is that continuing to go on? Whether everyone wants to trade for him, that seems
I
like
hope
the
it's
Miles
done.
Turner situation has been like a 3-year running joke.
Yeah, I hope it's over. I feel like there's still going to be a few people out there who are going to want him, which say, you're entitled to your opinion. That's totally fine. There's just particular people who will be like tagging me, and they're like, "Are you sure you don't want him?" And I'm like, "Look, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter if I don't want him. It's what the front office wants, and it doesn't really look like they want him." So, um, yeah, it was a tough night for Turner, a tough night for Halliburton, and we really capitalized on that. But I told the kid next to me, like, "Hey, Turner plays really well against the Pelicans, but that's about it." So that doesn't really help us.
Yeah, and the Pacers are on a back-to-back. They face the Atlanta Hawks tonight, so it
Ooh.
might be a little tougher for them as well. It
Mhm.
did make me think, though, the way the Pelicans played last night, and also the Miles Turner thing that everyone seems to bring up. When it comes to this team at the trade deadline, I know we're still way over a month away from that.
Mhm.
And I think David Griffin in the offseason, look, didn't really make a ton of moves. Didn't think he really needed to make a ton of moves based on the construction of this roster, based on the continuity that he wanted from this playoff team last year into this year.
Mhm.
With that being said, is it going to be the same approach for David here come the trade deadline? Because here's a couple of options. You stay put, you ride with this team, you build that continuity, you build that chemistry, the relationships are so good. Why rock the boat?
Yeah.
But then you also see an opportunity here where you are right now still 30 some games in battling for a top seed in the West. Do you
Yeah.
make that move to put yourself over the hump? Like, how do you balance out trying to jeopardize what you have going on versus do you want to skip a step and make that extra leap now or let the process play out itself?
I like to imagine they have a couple different scenarios in mind, and I feel like a good way to play it is to think, okay, like let's see where we're trending. What's our record going to look like around the deadline? Because obviously, a lot of these moves are made the day of, right?
Right.
Nobody's making moves 2 weeks before the deadline and whatnot. But I kind of feel like a move will really depend on what the record looks like. So it's if we look like, hey, we can go win it all, and we know that we can potentially get somebody who will really move the needle, then I think that they might do it. But at the same time, yeah, they talk a lot about getting good people in the locker room and good character, and you don't really want to rock that boat, like you said, especially with how well the team's been doing. I mean, 21-12 through 33 games, second in the West. Um, it's really nothing to scoff at. They're doing really well. Um, and it's I don't know, it's tricky. It's really tricky because you don't want to mess up the chemistry, but you do want to kind of like propel yourself towards more success.
I think others are waiting for the Pelicans to kind of come back to earth, as they say, but it feels like the way this team is playing that maybe that's not going to be the case for them. When you look at the West right now with Denver and Phoenix and Memphis and all those teams, Phoenix and you know all those teams trying to
Hmm.
battle it out for the number one. But I think a lot of people say, "Oh, it's early." Some of these teams are going to fall backwards, some of these teams are going to move up, but the way this Pelicans team plays, it seems like they might not be going anywhere for quite some time, which will be a nice surprise for this squad.
Yeah, I wanted to before I forget, definitely have to give Jackson Hayes his kudos. Starting with that OKC game. We had a lot of guys in double figures that night. I had think we had seven guys in double figures. So all the starters were in double figures, two guys off the bench with double digits with their points. But Jax had 21 points, 6 rebounds and 4 assists. And then last night he had a couple big plays. He had an awesome block early first quarter. So he stayed ready, and that seems to be the theme. With these guys, they talk a lot about next man up, and everyone really steps up to the challenge. And there's guys who've been racking up DMPs, and they can come in the game and get you double digits, might even get you a double double. So huge shout out to him and Najee also.
Yeah, Devonte Graham playing some meaningful minutes as well for the Pelicans. Look, you've really needed everyone here in the last couple of weeks, and
Yeah.
it's crazy when we talk about the injuries. You feel like you're finally starting to get healthy again, and then you have a game like last night. You're like, uh-oh, what's going to happen now when you add more guys to it?
hmm
Hopefully they can get healthy for Wednesday. This is a tough stretch for the Pelicans. I feel like the end of calendar year, but a good test to see
Yeah.
where they're at. Two of the three games at home. You start with the Minnesota Timberwolves on Wednesday. No Carl Anthony Towns. I believe he's still out, correct, Rel? So you
I
still have
believe.
to worry about the rest of their squad. Friday, you have the red hot Philadelphia 76ers, who, as we're recording right now, are riding an 8-game winning streak. And of course, I sent you the wonderful tweet last night. Someone else might be returning against New Orleans. It really is becoming an NBA trend as Tyrese Maxey has been reported to be ready to go against the Pelicans. Of course, it's maybe they're thinking we need everyone we can against this Pelican
Maybe.
squad. That's how I'm looking at it. And then a
Maybe.
back to back to end the calendar year as you go to Memphis. What a way to ring in the new year with a battle with your division foe
I
in
know.
the Memphis Grizzlies. But it's going to be a big test. I think you're going to need some guys back. Not saying that this team can't handle it, obviously, like they did against the Pacers, but hopefully Zion's back maybe on Wednesday, and maybe Bi back this week, and you can
Yeah.
finish this calendar year strong.
Fingers crossed. I'm hoping to get all those guys back. I want everybody off the injury report. The only person who will be on there is EJ Liddell, unfortunately, but everybody
Yeah,
else, I want them off the report. I don't want any more questionables, no probables, doubtfuls, none of that. But I'm not a fan of the Timberwolves at all. But the Sixers, I really want to beat them specifically because last year, the home opener, Joel Embiid made some comments about how empty it was in the Smoothie King Center and how he wouldn't want to play in there and things along that line, right? Comments in those nature. So I would love to beat them in what I'm sure is going to be a full house. I mean, it's a Friday night. It's we're still wrapping up the holidays and everything, but I think also I think it's a 7:30 tip off maybe, so that also helps as far as getting people in the door and being rowdy as soon as we tip the game off. But yeah, I kind of like to stick it to those guys and keep a streak going too. Beat Minnesota, let's go for 4. Beat Philly, let's go for 5.
I have a weird hatred for the Sixers, and when I say weird, it's because last year we flew all the way up to Philadelphia
hmm
and they decided that everyone was in COVID protocols. Not saying everyone they decided, but they were almost at the point where if they didn't have enough players, they'd have to postpone.
Oh,
And then magically, some other players appeared on the injury report um, with an injury not related to COVID, which their numbers went up or down enough where the roster could not be, they couldn't put a roster together for the game. So we
what?
flew all the way up there, canceled the game, and this was after the Sixers were playing a back to back the next day against Boston, and all of a sudden everyone was ready to go for that.
Now I
And then the
remember.
and then they rescheduled the Pelicans game. They come back up on a second night of a back to back, and we just go back up there and get demolished. And
Oh
I
my
just
gosh.
Doc Rivers looking out again. Brilliant move by him to make sure. Hey, oh yeah,
Oh.
Maxi's battling an ankle. MB's now questionable with some sort of injury. Nope, can't feel the team for tonight. But well, look at they're all magically ready to go tomorrow against the Boston Celtics. So that's
Wow.
where I come into play as far as a very unnatural hatred for the Philadelphia 76ers based on past experience. But I do want to see they're going to be pretty much fully healthy. If you have Maxi coming back, Harden, Joel Embiid, I want to
hmm
see how the Pelicans stack up against potentially one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. I think that's going to be a fun matchup Friday night.
Yeah, I am definitely looking forward to it. I just like being in the blender. I told someone last night, they were like, "How are you doing?" I was like, "Well, I'd be much better with a win. I'd be much better if all our guys were playing." But at the same time, I'm just happy to be in the building and see a couple familiar faces. Lyle's in town. Lyle Swithenbank
Yeah,
from Australia came to grace us with his presence. So I got to meet him last night. So we'll probably hang out on Friday after the game. Let's just make it a big party. Everyone's invited.
everyone but me, as I'll be here in
If you
Atlanta.
can make
Hey,
it.
I can, but it snowed a little bit last night here in the
Ooh,
Atlanta area. A little bit on the ground. I thought, I had to go out and get the bread and the milk and lock myself in, but it turns out it doesn't really stick here in Georgia, and so just a
okay,
little bit on the grass. But no
good,
one
good,
freaking out like I thought would happen. But yeah, definitely pretty cold here. It's been cold there too, as well, hasn't it?
It has. I was happy to have kind of a colder Christmas for once. I can wear some long sleeves, maybe wear a heavier hoodie or something like that. So I welcomed it, but for the most part, I don't really have to go outside unless I'm going to a game or going to a watch party. So people who had to leave to go to work and stuff, they're just like, dude, this weather sucks. So for me, it's the cold's not so bad. It's when it's cold and rainy. That's when it's another level of like misery. So don't mind the cold, but it just can't be wet.
How was the atmosphere like in the Smoothie King Center last night? Just wanted to get your thoughts on just how it was. No school for most people, no
Mhm.
work for a lot of others. With the Monday after Christmas, was it a good atmosphere last night against the Pacers?
It was a sold out game, I believe. And it wasn't so much of a rowdy crowd as it was, when Phoenix was here and things like that, but it was packed. I mean, I showed up at let's see, the doors are opening at 6. I showed up at about 5:57 or something. And I got in a line that was pretty long to get inside. And then when I'm heading up to my seat, um, right around the time they're doing the anthem, I look out the window as I'm going up the escalator, and there's still a super long line outside. So people are just like clamoring to get in. But yeah, it was packed. It was a good atmosphere. It wasn't playoff like, but they showed Steve Gleason up on the jumbotron, and it got
Nice.
super super loud. The sound machine was cranked all the way up for that moment. So it was a lot of fun.
I think I'm gonna purchase my own Smoothie King Center sound machine. That should be something that should be sold, in the team store. One of
Yeah,
those wound up one.
I need it. Yeah,
That
that'd be
we'll send one
awesome.
to Eddie Johnson next year for Christmas. Should have gone in that for this year. Smoothie King Center
Yeah.
sound machine.
He's blocking people on Twitter and all sorts of stuff, man. I'm like, you guys, I get it. We like to be petty and stuff, but yeah, they're on his case for sure.
Speaking of on their case, I feel like I think now Jeff Goodman has been added to the list as far as did you
Yeah,
see that from
I
him?
did. I did. That was pretty lame. I think people need to give that a rest, but
Like, what's
I
the point
follow
of that?
there's
What's the
no
point of
point.
that?
There's no point. They just think it's funny and it's not funny and it's never been funny. And I follow Underdog NBA on Twitter and I saw their post and it said that, due to reconditioning Zion wasn't gonna play. And I'm like, I know you guys don't usually give a lot of like detail and
Yeah.
context with these tweets, but that one just set him up for jokes or
Yeah. Because
so-called
the
jokes.
context is it's reconditioning from COVID,
Mhm.
which CJ McCollum did the same thing after he
Yep.
had COVID, which all of them have to do. When you
Yep.
miss a few games and you can't do anything because of COVID. It's not like you're out and you're still able to practice with the team or you're still able to run. Like when you're in COVID protocols, you can't do anything. And so you do have to take a couple of days to get your legs back underneath you, get back in the game condition that it takes to run up and down the court for 30-35 minutes. And again, no matter if it's
Mhm.
Zion or CJ or anyone else, um, it just the jokes are just getting way too old. And of course, we can
Yeah.
probably go down the list. I've seen the list of who's on the list, and I guess Jeff Goodman did accept his place on the naughty list, I should say, for the Pels 12. But I hope this list doesn't keep growing because for reasons like that, it's just nonsense to me.
I feel like it's gonna keep growing. I feel like people, um, they've got certain things in their head from day one, from as soon as we got Zion, right? So they take this little idea and they run with it, and it's been 3.5 or so years, and they still think that like there's no way he wants to be here. They still think there's no way he's not gonna end up being a bust and things like that. But what do they know? Nothing.
Yep. I saw John Hollinger again float out the potential of moving. And I'm like, could you all
Again?
just like, yeah, like just a little tidbit on like another team that, might be selling their team soon or something was like, well, New Orleans still could be a possibility. And it's
Oh
like,
my
stop.
word.
We're gonna
They
have
hate
to.
us.
I wish we, record on Festivus because we could have aired all these grievances about all these people. But maybe that should be part of. We'll do another one of these before the calendar year.
Mhm.
Um, we'll have a New Year's resolution special, and I
Yeah.
think we'll have some fun with what not only should players and us should be working on in the new year, but maybe some members of the media too, as far as their New Year's resolutions for how to handle this team. Because no matter what you say about this team, it's not going to matter. because
Yeah.
I think we're showing everyone who we are, what type of team this is, and they are not going anywhere. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of a, again, the us against the world mentality, I think, is still there.
Yeah. I definitely feel that. Um, I want to say last night, back to this Indiana game, because of how I thought Tyrese Halliburton was going to totally torch us. I saw an interesting same game parlay where it was Halliburton was going to get a double double, and like Andrew Nimhard was going to get a double double, and then they were going to win. It was like a 2.5 point spread or something, and I think the odds were like plus 4,000 or something. So I had like $105 in the app, and I said, "How much could I get if I won this?" And I put the 105 in, and it was like $13,000. And me thinking that we're not going to win the game, I was like, "Should I do it?" Nah, I didn't do it. I'm too scary. I can't.
Well, I floated a Tyrese Halliburton prop out there on one of my apps, and
Hmm.
did not work out for me last night because the Pelicans did so well. And I think a lesson learned: don't bet against the Pelicans, no matter the situation. But you can use Bet Online, as they remain your number one source for all sports betting this season. Everything from NFL and bowl season to esports. 4 bowl games today, by the way. Shout out Georgia Southern playing at noon Eastern today. Go Eagles. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. It features live betting, free contests, live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. Fastest and easiest to bet on your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your rewards. BetOnline, where the game starts. So, yes, you spent a lot of money on gifts over these last couple of weeks. Make sure you win some of that money back, courtesy of us, with the 50% welcome bonus, courtesy of Believe as well. So maybe I'll use that tonight in order to try to get some money back that I lost thanks to Tyrese Halliburton not doing anything against the Pelicans. But another solid
Uh,
night around the association tonight, and a big week for New Orleans here as we wrap up the show. Just again, Rel, when you're looking at these next 3 games, I think the Minnesota game is still a very important one for
it
them,
is.
and where they at. And another person I don't think a lot of people like here is Mr. Rudy Gobert.
Not
And
a fan. Not a fan. I call him Rudolph every chance I get. I don't know what it is. Is he just not likable? Is it just me? Is it just me and like
no,
10
it's
people?
it's not you. It's I'm the same way. I don't know, the touching of the microphones a couple of years
uh,
ago kind of
that was so annoying. That was so
Gobert
annoying.
shuts down COVID,
And it
shuts
didn't
down the
help that
NBA.
it was him. If it was anyone else, I might have rolled my eyes a little bit and be like, "Oh, this guy," right? But because it was Rudy, I was like, "Seriously?" But I feel like my dislike for him comes from the Anthony Davis days, and it's the same as with Carl Anthony Towns. I always felt like AD was better than both of those guys, but I feel like they got more respect than he did, and I just didn't get it. So it made me not like them. I always thought that um, Tony Ruffles is what I call him. I don't want to call him AD anymore because
Yeah.
we have our own special AD. But
Exactly.
Davis, I always felt like he was better than Rudolph. I don't think that Gobert is defensive player of the year. I don't, and even Anthony Edwards said that he didn't put any fear in his heart. So now they have to play together. But it's like I don't know. I never believed that he was this defensive force, but what do I know? Good thing I don't do the voting.
Yeah, and they're having a hard time figuring out how to play, with one another right now. Still a team that everyone thought would be at the top of the Western Conference. Of course, Carl Anthony Towns being out doesn't help, but also when both of those guys have been on the floor together, it's a little bit of a challenge to get 2 7-footers out there.
Yeah.
And I think in this day and age in the NBA, that's not really the attack strategy. I know the Pelicans were able to work that out with Boogie and Tony Ruffles a few years ago, but I
Yeah.
think ever since then the game has evolved a little bit more where it's not as productive to have those bigs. But former Pelicans assistant GM Tim Connolly going all in with that roster after leaving Denver, and we'll see how it plays out.
I think Nas Reed could also cause some problems for us as well in that
He
matchup.
always plays well against the Pelicans. He's
Is
one of
he
those Pelican killers.
certified Pelican killer? I remember I think it was Jake Layman a few years ago. He solidified himself as a Pelican killer. But now anytime I see him, he's just like rotting away on someone's bench. It's kind of sad. It's sad that they don't know. They didn't see the tape. They don't know to play him against the Pelicans. But
Isn't he on Phoenix?
uh,
Because wasn't
I
he part of the
feel
little
like
kerfuffle the last week? I thought he was in
that
the
might
kind
have
of
been
the
like
middle of it.
Jock Landale, who was also
Jock Landale, yeah.
when he was with the Spurs last year, he kind
Yes.
of torched us a little bit. But yeah, I know Nas Reed is also kind of like a target for some of the fans. Um, People will sometimes put his stats but won't say who it is, and they're like, look at this, don't you think this could help? And so I did a little research and I figured out like, oh, they're talking about Nas Reed. So
Mhm.
um I don't know how I feel about that. I know for sure I feel very strongly about the Miles Turner thing. Nas Reed, I don't really have an opinion so far, but I think tomorrow, if he, if he does really well against us, I'm naturally going to be upset, but other people naturally are going to be like, oh yeah, we should go get that guy, because that's how things trend.
Again, the key is when for those are listening that are a part of the trade machine or a part of throwing out things, the key is who's gonna want to do this trade? Do
Yeah.
both teams want to do this? Because it's easy to go, we should get Nas Reed, we should go get this guy. Who are you trading back to
Yep.
the Minnesota Timberwolves? Who are you trading back to the Pacers? And be careful what you wish for too, because
Yeah.
again, the way this team is constructed, there's not a lot of teams that complement each other the way the Pelicans do, and the chemistry that the Pelicans have, and the love for one another, and the play for one another that clearly is shown every single night on and off the court. So again, we'll come to this when it comes to the trade deadline.
Mhm.
Is how do you find that balance of shaking things up a little bit to get yourself a solidified home court in the first round, or buy in with your team, which I think David Griffin has and Trajan Langdon has, is keeping it the way it is because it seems to be working right now, even with all these guys being injured.
Uh, we're doing really well in this set of 10 games here. It's games 31 through 33. We're 3-0. So we're off to a good start for games 31 through 40. But um before we go, what'd you think about that Christmas game with Memphis and in Golden State and all
I
the
loved it. I loved it. I love the trash talk and I like the beef. I like again, what I don't like, and it's not just that game, but you're seeing it more and more when there are little scuffles or trash talk and
Mhm.
nothing happens. The
Yeah.
holding me back when like this is not an example from that game, but the whole Jordan Clarkson last week, where it looked like he was about to throw down, but he
Oh
didn't throw
yeah.
down initially when he was in the guy's face. As soon as someone went to hold him back, all of a sudden he was ready to fight. And it's just like, come on, man. If you're gonna make a move, if you're gonna throw a haymaker and suspend yourself, at least just do it then. Like, don't act
Yeah.
like you're gonna do this and then wait for someone to back. You're lucky that guy backed me
Yeah.
or held me back. Otherwise, you would have been in trouble. Like, again, that's how I would fight
Man.
because I would not be able to take anyone down. I'd have to wait for hopefully someone to hold me back so I can pretend like I was going to do something, but not
Yeah.
like if we're going to do this. And again, I don't condone violence, but like if there's going to be a little scuffle, then let's make it a scuffle and not one of those where
Yeah.
both teams just get in the middle
We're
and,
just
and
pointing
trash
and
talk.
threatening each other.
Yeah, exactly. I'll meet you in the back. No, you won't. You're not going to meet
Yeah.
me in the back.
That's
Or
what it
let's
was
go
like
right now.
with Isaiah Stewart and LeBron James last year. Isaiah Stewart, he's right there. He's got the chance if he wants to like hit LeBron, and he's super calm. And then once he's away from LeBron, all of a sudden, oh no, let me at him, let me at him, and
Yeah.
it's like, all right,
Exactly. You remember way back in
hilarious.
the day, Rick Fox and Doug Christie, where they went at it,
Oh.
and then those two men in the back, and you
When
could see in the tunnel.
Doug Christie hit Rick Fox with the uppercut. I was like
Yeah,
10 and I was like, get him.
there we
Like
go.
I hated the Lakers. I loved the Kings at the time. And I think that was a preseason game. That was way too intense for that time of year. But they really hated each other's guts back
Yeah.
then. But
Someone gonna grab Alonzo Mourning's leg like Jeff Van Gundy? Like those are the kind of things. Like I not again. We grew up in that era. Well, NBA on NBC on Saturdays. The hatred between Knicks and Heat and Suns and Lakers or the Blazers with Rasheed Wallace. Like those guys legitimately did not like each other and they were not afraid to throw some bows and some fist and go at it. Here it's like it's they get in
yeah.
each other's face and then you get the ESPN alert, fight breaks out between, it was like the other day, it was Giannis and
Uh,
Jalen Brown. It was like those
oh
two get in each other's
yeah.
faces and I was like, I looked at the video, I'm like, so
That
Like,
was weird too because it was kinda just like Giannis kinda, like, threw his shoulder at him, and it's like, "Okay, if you
yeah,
really want to hit him, you woulda hit him." But, again, I mean, I would've hated for them to get in a fight, and there's suspensions going on and things
right. I
like
don't
that.
want any of that.
So, I don't
But
mind
then
it
I
getting a
kind of
little bit
want
of, chippy, but, let's not come to throwing bows.
no, no. But I want to see some of that. Like I
Um
just am tired of the whole hold me back and then I'm ready to fight. Just make your move or don't act like you're gonna go do something. That's all I ask. A New Year's resolution for all those ready to fight in the NBA. Be ready or just don't try it.
There you go. Boot up or shut up.
Boot up or shut up. I like that. Well, this has been a great episode here as we appreciate all those waiting for us to get through the Christmas holiday. We will have another one later on this week, our New Year's edition. We will throw out
Yeah.
some New Year's resolutions. I guess I'll throw out some for myself, but let's focus on the team. We'll focus on NBA New Year's resolutions as well. We'll have some fun with that. And we'll have some fun, hopefully, talking about some Pelicans wins again tomorrow against the Timberwolves at home, Friday, Sixers at home, and then ringing in the new year in Memphis against the rival Grizzlies. Well, I
Mhm.
really appreciate it. I'll look out for those shoes here in the next couple of days. And until next time, I'll talk to you soon.
All right, go Pels, and what's that saying? Oh yeah, let's dance.
Let's dance. I hope everyone has a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you later. Thanks for listening to Pels and Whistles presented by Bet Online right here on the Believe Network.